So you want to learn how to ride a sport bike? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how to do that. Today's sport bikes are generally not as aggressive as they used to be. People just don't like sport bikes anymore, and they're not selling very well. So they've made ergonomics a lot better. However, this bike here in particular, including other bikes similar to this, like the ZX6R and 1000, as well as the CBR, still have the same riding posture. But what you're going to get from the brand new bikes, such as the Yamaha R9 and the new Ducati V2 that's going to be coming out, are ergonomics that are going to be a lot more comfortable than the ZX6R, as well as all the bikes in this particular generation. But with that being said, a sport bike is still a sport bike. To ride the sport bike comfortably, it's all about how you position your body. Besides the aggressive position of the handlebars in relation to the seat, you also have foot pegs that are higher up. So when you're actually sitting on the bike, you're literally in like a pretzel position. That's something that throws a lot of people off when they're first riding, because some people just aren't acclimated to riding sport bikes. And as a result of not being acclimated, by the time they're finished riding it for 30 minutes, their arms hurt, their back hurts. So with that being said, let me go ahead and show you exactly how to sit on the bike and position yourself. And then for everything else, we're going to take it on the road, and I'll tell you guys how it works. As an FYI, the seat height on this motorcycle is 32.7 inches, but my inseam is about 28 inches. But I have a little trick that helps me out. And I showed this in my How to Ride a Motorcycle for Short Riders video. So if you haven't watched those videos, make sure to check that out after watching this one. But anyway, what I usually do is when I turn the motorcycle to the center position like I have it right now, the way I usually position my arms when I'm riding is not particularly like this. Because right now, I'm in a position like this. This is not how you should be riding a sport bike. And a lot of people who ride sport bikes, they usually ride like this. Their arms don't have a bend, and their neck is usually very stiff. Their shoulders are higher up, and they're pretty much stiff on the motorcycle. But what I like to usually do is I like to use my core. So when you're riding a motorcycle, make sure that you have a strong core. Doing a couple of pull-ups, a couple of push-ups, just, you know, stretch yourself out before you ride a sport bike. That's the best way. In fact, any motorcycle for that matter, the better in shape you are, the smoother your riding is going to be. But what I like to do is I like to have a little bit of bend. As you can see here, I positioned 2 fingers on the front brakes. That's where I usually like to keep it. I don't put a lot of pressure on the handlebars, and that's one mistake that a lot of people do when they ride sport bikes, because they're hunched over like I am, and then all the weight goes to the front. And when they're turning their motorcycle, either at slow speeds or at high speeds, their motorcycle turns very slowly, and they're fighting against their bike. So my recommendation to you is use mostly your core to hold yourself up. This way you're not putting too much pressure on your handlebars. And pretend you're kind of like holding a baby chicken. You know, like if you crush the baby chicken by holding it too hard, you're going to kill that baby chicken. Don't murder baby chickens, okay? So my recommendation is not to grip the handlebars tightly and use mostly your core. So when you're sitting on a bike, I'm about 5'6" tall. This is what you would look like. Your left foot would be down, and your right foot would be on the right foot peg. This way you can use your rear brake if needed, but you would mostly keep your foot here and your left foot down. But if you're lucky and you got both feet on the ground and you're flat footing, then you can also do that as well. But the most important thing on a sport bike is to have a little bit of bend on your arm and to not have your shoulders be stiff. But when you're riding the motorcycle, you're not going to look any different. Here, let me go ahead and show you how it works. You see, like my position is exactly the same as where it used to be, except now we're riding and I still have that little bend on my arm. Here's that bend on my arm I was telling you about. I moved myself back a little bit on the seat. Now, you see that? Just like that. So in this lesson, the only thing I want you to take away is this. What I don't want you to do is to ride the bike like this, okay? I don't want you to do that. What I want you to do instead is to grip the handlebars very lightly and also have a bend in your elbows. So if you have a bend in your elbows and they're not straight, you keep your shoulders relaxed, not stiff like this. You don't keep your neck stiff like this. You keep everything relaxed, and you use mostly your core to hold yourself up on the bike. That's the most important thing. As far as your feet are going to be bent anyway because the foot pegs are higher up, so you're going to have a bend on your feet, but keep the balls of your feet on the foot pegs. That's the most important thing. On a track, it's a little bit different, but we're talking about just on the street right now. So the next thing I want to talk to you about is how to do a slow race, because on a sport bike, maneuverability is something that's very important. On a regular standard bike, it's easier to maneuver because the handlebars are up, you're not in a pretzel position, you're kind of sitting upright, but on a sport bike, way different. What exactly is a slow race? Well, as you can see here, my speedometer is registering 0 miles an hour. This is considered a slow race. Now, as you see here, I don't have my feet on the ground and I'm not using my throttle. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm feathering my clutch and I'm moving my handlebars left and right. This is one of the lessons that I teach inside Motorcycle Mastery, and we go way in depth into this, including a bunch of other drills to get you not only comfortable on sport bikes, but any bike in general. So as you can see here, I'm registering 0 miles an hour, and I'm trying to balance myself by moving the handlebar left and right. If I need to give myself a little bit more speed, I let go of the clutch. If I need to slow down, I simply pull in my clutch. This stops giving power to the transmission, and therefore my engine slows down. So if you're new to riding sport bikes or just want to get into it for the first time, my recommendation is just to come here and do exactly what we did. Practice your seating position, practice holding yourself up without putting too much pressure on your shoulders and your handlebars, practice some U-turns, as well as some slow races, because this will get you to be very, very comfortable with the motorcycle before you actually start hitting the road like we're doing right now. Now, in the beginning, when I first started riding, I used to put a ton of pressure on the handlebars. When I got back, my hands used to hurt, and I always wondered, what the heck is wrong with me? Why are my hands hurting? I almost hated riding sport bikes. I was like, I don't know if this is for me, man. My back used to hurt, my arms used to hurt. Now, I do want to mention that in the beginning, you will have a little bit of muscle fatigue. It's quite natural, actually, because riding a sport bike is physically intense. It will use muscle parts that you haven't used before, so everything is brand new to you. And so I would say for the first maybe week and a half, you might have a little bit of muscle pain. That's totally normal. But after the first week, if you continue to ride and your back is hurting and your arms are hurting as well as your wrists, you know, it doesn't feel like muscle pain. It feels something completely different, like maybe your bones are hurting or something like that. That's totally different. That could be a sign that you may be putting too much pressure, or you may need to stretch out a little bit before you actually start riding. Riding a motorcycle uses parts of your body as well as your muscles that you've never ever used before. So regardless, even if you're like in 100% top shape and you know you're like 22 years old, believe me, you're gonna feel a little bit of pain in the beginning, and it's quite normal. But like I mentioned, pain after you've gotten used to the bike is all about your posture. Your posture, which includes your neck position, the position of your arms, not being straight, of course, like we talked about. A lot of these things are super important. And when you get your posture down, that's when everything will fall into place, and you'll be very comfortable riding sport bikes. The other thing about a sport bike is that just like a normal bike, sport bikes after 15 miles per hour are usually controlled using counter steer. Like right now, if I wanted to make a right turn, I push right on the handlebar. As you can see, I'm pushing right, and the motorcycle makes a right turn. And if I want to make a left turn, I push left on the handlebar, the motorcycle makes a left turn. That's how counter steering works. Counter steering does not work below 15 miles an hour. Below 15 miles an hour, you literally have to turn your motorcycle. As a matter of fact, motorcycles, bicycles, everything after 15 miles an hour works pretty much the same. Well, you know what? Count out the bicycle part. But motorcycles, that's all I can confirm, works usually after 15 miles per hour. Let's go ahead and test it out once again. You see, there you go. Right goes right, left goes left. But the only difference is that on a sport bike, you're hunched over. Like right now, we talked about before, I'm in a pretzel position, and as a result of the pretzel position, steering is going to feel a lot more different. It's going to be a lot more aggressive, and it's going to be really rough on your body. In the beginning, I recommend you ride for maybe about 15 minutes at a time, take a little break, and then ride for another 15 minutes, take a break until your body starts getting acclimated with it. Two last tips for you, one of them extremely important. The first one is, on most sport bikes, you got dual calipers in the front, which are usually 300 millimeters each, and they provide 70 to 80% of your stopping power. And on the rear, you got 20 to 30% of your braking power with 200 millimeter discs, or sometimes they're 220. But on most sport bikes, that's how it's usually separated: 70-80, 20-30. That being said, most people on sport bikes, they make the very, very big mistake of stopping with the rear brakes primarily. Don't make that mistake. You got 70 to 80% of your braking force in the front. Use it for how it's meant to be used. My recommendation is, when you're doing over 20 miles an hour, to use your front brakes when you're slowing down. After you slow down and you're below 20 miles an hour, transition to using your rear brakes. This way you're a lot smoother, especially in the beginning when you're just learning how to ride a sport bike. Even though I told you that you can't have too much pressure on your handlebars, there might be a situation where you might just get too tired and rest too much of your weight on the handlebars. Like, as an example, red light's coming up right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my front brakes, or actually I just use my engine braking to slow me down, but right light turned green. It's okay, we're going to stop anyway. So I'm going to use my front brakes up until 20, and now I'm letting go of my front brakes and using primarily the rear. I see I stopped myself to 4 miles an hour. Now I'm going to put both hands on the steering wheel and bring myself to a complete stop. And as you noticed, I didn't use the front brake at all. Now normally I wouldn't have my hand off the grips, but I just want to give you as an example, but I would be a lot more smoother stopping. But anyway, let me go ahead and show you another example. Just like that. You see how smooth that was? So this is how it should look for you. I didn't use any of my front brakes. I used primarily the rear under 15 miles an hour, and that's what I want you to practice as well. Because this way, if your handlebars are, let's just say, tilted a little bit to the left or maybe to the right, if you abruptly stop, what's going to happen is that all the weight is going to transfer to the left, and that's how you drop your motorcycle. So to avoid dropping your motorcycle during slow speed environments such as traffic signs and things of that nature, get used to doing this and practice this more often. Even if you ride a standard motorcycle, doesn't matter what you ride, and there will be less chances of you dropping your motorcycle, at least in the beginning, until you get your bearings. And as we already talked about, the last thing is not having a death grip on your handlebars. Pretend it's a baby chicken. You don't want to be a murderer of baby chickens, okay? So no death gripping. Keep your body nice and relaxed. Keep your head nice and relaxed. This way the motorcycle moves freely, but if you're stiff, that's going to reflect on your motorcycle as well, and therefore you're not going to turn as smoothly, and you can be practicing in a parking lot and riding for years and wonder why you can't do certain things the way other riders do it, why you can't turn like that, and why you can't enjoy your motorcycle like you see people doing on YouTube. It's mostly about posture. So if you can get your posture correct, everything falls into place. And this is something that we talk about in Motorcycle Mastery. Your body positioning, your posture, and all the nuts and bolts and little pieces of what we talked about today are explained in detail. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about Motorcycle Mastery, links are down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.